a question came in, how can you tell the difference when you're drawn or pulled in a way, if it's ego or not? And the simple answer to that is, are you driven by fear or are you driven by love? Because if we're doing something in fear, like, oh, I've got to fix this situation because it's making me feel bad, or I am afraid of what's going to happen if I don't fix it, that's ego, right? Versus I'm responding to this in a way of love. And that's really, and so oftentimes we do need to actually put ourselves in a little bit of a timeout and do a little self-check. Right. And I mean that in the most gentlest way of like, I have to do this for myself. Like, why am I involved with this situation? What is going on here? What's the lesson I'm supposed to learn? And how am I responding? And am I responding in a way of fear? Or am I responding in a way of love? And doing a little like check in. And sometimes we need to bring it to an outside source of going, hey, this is the situation. I'm confused in how I'm responding to this. What can you give me some feedback? Can you give me a reflection back? Can you be a mirror for me? And like I have students every once in a while do this where they'll be like, I would like you to be a mirror and just be really honest with me about the stuff that I'm holding on to, or the limiting beliefs, or the way I'm showing up. Can you be an honest reflection for me? And I'm open and ready to receive whatever that looks like, because I know I'm ready for that part of my healing progress. Right. And so sometimes we do need support, and other times we just need to go take time to contemplate. And I think that we live in such a rush society that it's hard to give ourselves that time to reflect. And I find personally, this is what keeps me up at night. This kind of stuff that I'm like, why am I involved in this? How am I showing up? Is this something that I'm trying to control, or is this something I am learning to love on? Like I do a lot of my interpersonal reflections in the evenings. And I think this is why it's so healthy to have a journal practice or a voice memo practice or something where you're prompting yourself with these questions that are what based, that are open ended, so that you can explore the angles either with yourself or another person, whether that's a therapist or a coach, and really get curious about, how am I responding to the situation? How am I showing up in it? And where is ego getting in the way? Is it love or is it fear?
And knowing that in that, that really is probably one of the best ways to be able to tell, because the same action can both be soul led and ego led. It's not about the outcome. It's not about the action. I mean, there are notable examples, right? There are notable examples of things that we know are wrong or ego driven. But when we're talking about day-to-day decisions, should I talk to this person? Should I buy this thing? Should I engage with this opportunity? Both, any outcome can be rooted in both soul or ego. It's not about the outcome. It's about the intention behind that action. It's about the intention behind that decision. And so when we're in that place of asking ourselves, is it ego or is it soul? This is also where we can tune into our spiritual gifts. Because a lot of times, if you are a feeler, for example, this is something that I have of, if you experience energy through feeling, you will be able to feel when your soul is calling you to an answer or when it's not. If you're into human design, they call this, making decisions based on your sacral, but it's that gut feeling that we have of this is right or this is not. If you are more clairvoyant, you might see signs in your life if the divine or your soul is calling you to do that. And so that's another way that we can look at this is, can you tune into your spiritual gift, even if you don't know exactly what that is? How do you typically interact with energy? Do you feel it? Do you hear it? Do you see it? Do you smell it? Do you taste it? How do you typically interact with energy? And how can you use that to help you know if you're on the right path? And once you have that understanding of, even if it's as simple as, do I feel this in my gut? Is this a hell yes or a hell no? That's one way. And then we can also look at it from that lens of, is this in love or is this fear? Meaning, another way of looking at that is, when I'm making this decision and I think about what I want the outcome to be, Do I feel like that outcome is going to give me more safety, more love, more assurance, more worthiness, more value, more something that is anything other than love, alignment, or balance? And if it is, if you feel like, well, if I do this, I will be more worthy. If I do this, I will have more acceptance. If I do this, I'll be more safe. If I do this, I'll have more money, more whatever. Chances are that's probably not a soul led decision. Because most of the time, when your soul is making a decision, its reasons for making decisions are joy, love, alignment, balance, typically. It's typically going to be some manifestation of one of those four things. And if it's not one of those four things, then it's typically rooted in a state of lack. Because if we feel like we need more of something, it's because we feel insecure about how much of that thing we already have. And like we were talking about in this conversation, that insecurity is because it's unrooted in the all that isness. It's unrooted in the divine, in this understanding that there's always enough. And so, therefore, it's rooted in some kind of limiting belief, which is causing us to feel fear, which is causing us to feel that separation, which is causing us to feel like if we make this decision, maybe it'll fix that thing. So, if there's a sense there that this decision is going to fix something, then that's an opportunity for us to go in and look at what's the limiting belief that's been triggered? What's the fear that's been triggered? What's in me that's causing me to feel constricted, that's causing me to feel like I'm not enough as I am, that I'm not safe, that I'm not whatever? Work through that and then come back to the decision, because there is a chance that you'll come back to the decision and still end up making the exact same decision, but you'll be making it from a place of love and security. And you might come back to that decision and realize that you need to make the complete opposite decision because now you're aligned with your soul. But wouldn't it be so much better if every decision that we made was made from a place of love and security? Even if it's the same decision we would have made from a place of fear, but now we're solid in it. It's not creating more fear, it's creating more love. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's an important aspect of, is it in fear, is it in love, is looking at it as, again, an opportunity for healing, an opportunity for more awareness, an opportunity for coming back into understanding of, that's a belief that I don't want to hold anymore. That's a belief that's causing me to feel constricted. That's a belief that's facilitating this feeling that I am not or don't have enough,
Yeah.
versus that's a feeling that's going to help me feel more whole.
And another way to kind of look at that too, in the same vibe is, do I need this or do I desire it? Because when we need it, it's because there's a lack of the thing that we need. It's coming from a place of lack. It's coming from a place of, I don't have enough. There's not enoughness. Versus I desire it means it's a different energy. It's like, it's not coming from a place of lack. It's because like there's so much abundance that like, why not? I can have this too, and so there's different energy driven behind it. I recently had someone, maybe it was a few months ago, ask me if my podcast was a representation of my ego. Like, is this a place where I show up to prove myself to the world? And I'm like, it's quite the opposite. It's like so different from that. And the fact that like I could see where someone might have that thought of like, why do people have podcasts? Why do we do this? Right? Are we doing this because we need to do it, because we need the students and we need to make the money and we need to prove ourselves? Or is it because we desire to support our community in this way? Do we desire to share our love and the wisdom with the world? Do we desire to show up authentically and share what's on our mind because it enlightens us, it excites us, it creates more of a outwardly vibration of positivity, right? Like, and so it's always this curious thing where ever since that question kind of landed on me, I'm like, am I showing up in my ego on my podcast? Like, I don't think I am. I think this is probably the most authentic version of me that you will get is on the podcast, because I feel, one, that this is such a safe space. Like, I don't feel judgment. I love the guests that we bring on. I love having these conversations with Isabel or Chantel, where I get to be completely authentically truthful in what I'm sharing about whatever the topic is. Like, there's not a lot of spaces that I can just be exactly who I am. And the fact that, like, if I do something in my local community, like, am I too woo woo? Am I too out there? Am I like whatever it is? Like, and I feel like the podcast, this Wisdom Rising podcast, really is that. It's Wisdom Rising. It's the space where we get to show up authentically in our truth and in our wisdom to share it. And how it lands for you is is up to you. Like, if there's judgment that I'm showing up in my ego, I'm not going to take that personally. like even with that question, like, I'm not taking it personally. It's like, oh, that's curious. And I hope that's not the way I'm being perceived. Right.
Yeah.
But do I really care? Not really, because I feel like if you thought that I was coming from an ego point of view, hopefully you're not even listening anymore. Like, I don't care.
That's such an interesting question to be asked because I mean, I can understand where they're coming from of that idea that everybody has a podcast now and everybody has a book now and everybody has a blog and and but when I think about the podcast, I think about it as this space for these frequencies to be open to anybody who wants them. Like I would never want somebody who doesn't enjoy what we talk about to listen to the podcast. If
Mhm.
somebody loves Reiki and doesn't think that shamanism has a place in it, that's fine. That's your path to walk, right? And I think this is where I come back to something that I talk about the students all the time with is capital T truth versus lowercase t truth, of this idea that there is a truth, capital T, to how the universe works, to what's right, what's wrong, how and why we're here, how we're supposed to find. Like there is a capital T truth to the universe and how it works. But because we live in this dichotomy of ego and soul that we've been talking about today, we can only perceive that truth, right? We can witness that truth. We can experience that truth, right? When we go into meditation, when we have a really profound Reiki experience, when we go on a shamanic journey, we've all had moments where we experience that capital T truth. But we also all know that the moment you try to put that into words, you lose some of the essence because it's an experience, not a thought. And so when we're here on earth and we're sharing our thoughts, we're sharing our lowercase t truths, meaning that it's the closest that we can get to explaining our experience of that all that isness. It's the closest we can get to bringing that experience into thoughts so that it can be shared again from this place of service. And if my lowercase t truth doesn't resonate with your lowercase t truth, that's okay, because I know that at the end of the day we're all trying to get to the same thing. And if our podcast, our way of sharing our lowercase t truth as truthfully as we can and as balanced and aligned as we can, isn't helping you come back into balance and connection with the bigger T truth because it's not resonating with you, then that's okay. It's okay. And I think that's how I see the podcast is it's this space for us to bring forward this lowercase t truth, knowing that there are so many people who do resonate with it and that it's a conduit not for everyone to believe us, not for everyone to think that we are better than everyone or we're a guru or we're a leader or anything, but just so that we can say, here's another little tidbit that has helped us. Does it help you? Here's an invitation to sit with us at the table. Pick out the dishes that resonate for you, leave out the ones that don't, and know that when it's time for you to get up and walk away, that's okay. I hope that something at the table has resonated with you. I hope that you came and were able to eat your fill. And if not, I hope you find the table where you will be able to.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm feeling really complete in this conversation. I hope you all are as well. And so, with that, until next time, may you awaken to the whispers from within, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.